Commander Day-Wan stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise and stared at the massive space station ahead. It was called Unity Point, the home of the Galactic Assembly. The station was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Lights covered its surface like a city floating in the darkness of space. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. First contact with alien life, not just one species, but 47 different civilizations all working together. Day-Wan felt his heart beating fast in his chest. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew how important this moment was. The communications officer turned to him. "Sir, we're receiving a docking signal." "Take us in," Day-Wan said. His voice was calm, but inside he felt excited and nervous at the same time. The Horizon's Promise moved slowly toward the docking bay. Through the windows, Day-Wan could see other ships. Some looked like crystals that grew in strange patterns. Others were smooth and black like river stones. One ship seemed to be made of living metal that shifted and changed shape. Human technology suddenly seemed very simple and basic. The docking process took 20 minutes. When it was done, Day-Wan straightened his uniform and walked toward the airlock. His diplomatic team followed him. There was Ambassador Yunji, who would do most of the talking. There was also scientist Jiwoo, who carried a data pad with information about Earth and human achievements. The airlock opened with a hiss. On the other side stood 3 aliens. The first was tall and thin with purple skin that seemed to shimmer. It had 4 arms and eyes that glowed with a soft blue light. The second alien looked like a walking tree made of dark red wood. Its branches moved like fingers. The third was the strangest. It floated in the air inside a bubble of water, and its body looked like a jellyfish made of silver threads. "Welcome," said the purple alien. Its voice came from a device on its chest because humans could not hear the frequency it spoke in. "I am Velthir Ambassador Korath. This is Morvan Counselor Threnix and Kylon Observer Silmera. We represent the Galactic Assembly." Yunji stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for receiving us. I am Ambassador Yunji of Earth. We are honored to meet you." Korath looked at the humans for a long moment. Then it made a sound that the translator turned into laughter. Small creatures so eager. "Come, we will show you what awaits your species." The tour of Unity Point took 3 hours. The aliens showed the humans everything. Libraries with knowledge from thousands of worlds. Gardens with plants that sang. Markets where traders sold technology that seemed like magic. Medical centers that could cure any disease. But as the tour went on, Day-Wan noticed something. The aliens were not impressed with humans. When Jiwoo tried to explain human achievements, Korath would nod politely and then change the subject. When Yunji talked about human culture, Threnix seemed bored. Finally, they reached a large chamber. Hundreds of aliens from different species sat in circles around a central platform. This was the assembly hall. Korath gestured for the humans to stand on the platform. The Galactic Assembly will now vote on Earth's membership application. What followed was not what anyone from Earth expected. The aliens barely discussed humanity at all. Instead, they seemed to be deciding what to do with these new creatures who had just learned to travel between stars. After only 15 minutes, Korath announced the decision. The Galactic Assembly welcomes humanity as a probationary member. You will be given territory on the Galactic Rim, away from core worlds. You will receive star charts for your region, and as a gift to help you begin your journey, we grant you the Ashkar Yards. Yunji smiled. "Thank you." "What is the Ashkar Yards?" "A collection of old ships and equipment," Threnix said. The tree-like alien's voice was like wind through leaves. "No longer useful to us, but perhaps you can learn from them." The humans returned to their ship confused but hopeful. They had been accepted into the galactic community. That was what mattered. 2 weeks later, the Horizon's Promise arrived at the Ashkar Yards. What they found there made Day-Wan's stomach sink. The Ashkar Yards was not a gift. It was a junkyard. Thousands of broken ships floated in a debris field that stretched for millions of kilometers. Most of the ships had huge holes in their hulls. Others were burned black from weapons fire or radiation. Some were cut into pieces. All of them were old, damaged, and abandoned. "This is what they gave us?" asked Hyunsu, the chief engineer. He had joined the mission to examine any technology Earth might receive. Now he stared at the screen showing the debris field with his mouth open. Jiwoo was already scanning the wrecks with her instruments. "These ships are from at least 12 different species. Most of them are over 200 years old by galactic standards. The technology is completely outdated. It's scrap, said Mirai, the materials specialist. She shook her head. They gave us their garbage and called it a gift. Daewon felt anger burning in his chest. The aliens had looked down on humanity from the start. This was their way of showing it. Give the primitive humans some trash and let them play with it. But then Hyun-soo said something that changed everything. Wait. The engineer was looking closely at one of the wrecks on the screen. That armor plating. Even damaged, it's more advanced than anything we have. And look at that engine core. It's dead now, but if we could figure out how it works. Ji-woo started scanning other ships. He's right. This might be junk to them, but to us, this is a treasure. Each ship here represents technology we don't have. Weapons we've never seen. Materials we can't make yet. Mirai pulled up a list of the different ship types. Veltir armor plating, Morvan power cores, Ceylon shields,
Threxian plasma weapons.
If we could take these apart and study them. Daewon looked at his crew. Slowly he started to smile. If we could put them back together? Not as they were, Hyun-soo said. His eyes were bright now with excitement, but as something new, something better. They spent the next week just surveying the debris field. Hyun-soo, Ji-woo, and Mirai worked around the clock, identifying which wrecks had the best salvage. They found armor that could take direct hits from weapons that would destroy human ships. They found energy cores that could power a city. They found shield generators, weapon systems, and engines. None of it worked anymore, but all of it could be studied, understood, and maybe rebuilt. When they returned to Earth, Daewon made his report to Fleet Admiral Tae-yang. The old admiral sat quietly and listened to everything. He looked at the images of the debris field. He read the reports from the engineering team. Finally, he spoke. The aliens think they humiliated us. They think they put us in our place by giving us garbage. Yes, sir, Daewon said. Tae-yang smiled. It was not a kind smile. Then let's show them what humans can do with garbage. I'm authorizing a new project. Codename Forge Initiative. We're going to take their scrap and build something they've never seen before. Within a month, Earth had deployed over 5,000 people to the Ashkar yards. Engineers, metallurgists, physicists, mechanics, and researchers all worked together. They cut apart the alien wrecks piece by piece. They studied every component. They tested every material. Hyun-soo became the director of the entire operation. He set up workshops inside some of the larger wrecks. Mirai established labs to analyze the alien metals and composites. Ji-woo created teams to reverse engineer the power systems and weapons. The work was hard and dangerous. Alien technology did not come with instructions. Sometimes power cores exploded during testing. Sometimes weapons discharged randomly. 3 people died in the first month when a damaged reactor went critical. But humans learned. They always learned. Hyun-soo discovered that Veltir armor was strong but brittle. It could take one massive hit but would crack under repeated stress. So he designed a layered system that combined Veltir plates with human flexible materials. The result was armor that could take both heavy hits and sustained fire. Mirai found that Morvain power cores were incredibly powerful, but unstable. They would overload and shut down without warning. She added human regulation systems and cooling technology. The modified cores ran at 80% of original power but never failed. Ji-woo made the biggest breakthrough. She discovered that human neural interface technology, which doctors use to help paralyzed people walk again, could connect to alien computer systems. No other species had tried this because their brains worked differently. But humans could interface with multiple alien systems at once. After 6 months, they built the first prototype ship. They called it the Defiant. It was ugly. Parts of it were Veltir purple. Other sections were Morvain black. The shield generators stuck out at odd angles. The weapons were different sizes and shapes. Nothing matched. Nothing looked like it belonged together. But when they turned it on, every system worked perfectly. Daewon had been reassigned to the Forge Initiative after speaking against the Galactic Assembly's treatment of Earth. Now Tae-yang gave him a new job, test pilot for the Defiant. The test flight was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Engineers packed the observation deck to watch. Hyun-soo stood with his arms crossed, trying to look confident. Ji-woo checked her datapad every few seconds. Daewon sat in the pilot's seat and looked at the controls. They were a mix of human and alien design. Some buttons he recognized. Others were completely new. Beginning engine startup sequence, he said into his radio. The Defiant came to life. The Morvan core hummed with power. The Velthir thrusters glowed blue. The Killon shield shimmered into existence around the hull. "All systems green," reported Jiwoo from the ground station. "You are clear for flight." Daewon pushed the throttle forward gently. The Defiant moved. Not sluggishly like the old alien hulks it was built from, but smoothly and quickly. He tried a simple turn. The ship responded instantly. He tried a roll. Perfect. He pushed the engines harder, accelerating into a sprint that would have torn apart the original Velthir ships. The Defiant handled like a dream. "I don't believe it," Hyunsu whispered, watching the data stream in. "It's actually working. It's better than working. The combined systems are compensating for each other's weaknesses." For the next hour, Daewon put the Defiant through every test he could think of. Sharp turns, sudden stops, full-power sprints. The ship performed beyond all expectations. When he finally landed, the entire engineering team was cheering. Taeyang watched the test flight recordings 3 times. Then he called a meeting with Earth's government leaders. "We can do this," he told them. "We can build a real fleet. Not copies of alien ships, but something new. Something uniquely human." The World Council authorized the construction of 12 capital ships and 40 support vessels. The Second Forge Initiative had begun. In the Ashkar yards, the sound of cutting torches and welding equipment never stopped. Day and night, humans worked to turn scrap into warships. The Galactic Assembly did not notice. They were too busy with their own politics and trade disputes to care about what the primitive humans were doing with their garbage. That would turn out to be a very big mistake. 2 years had passed since humanity received the Ashkar yards. In that time, the Galactic Assembly had almost forgotten about Earth. The aliens were busy with their own concerns. Wars between minor species, trade negotiations, and territorial disputes kept them occupied. At Unity Point, Velthir Ambassador Korath sat in a private chamber with several other high-ranking officials. They were discussing the latest census of member species and their military capabilities. "And what of the humans?" asked a Morvan counselor. Korath made a dismissive gesture with 2 of his 4 arms. "Still playing in their junkyard, I imagine. The last report said they were cutting apart old ships to study them. Primitive creatures trying to understand technology beyond their capability." The other aliens laughed. One of them, a reptilian species called Threxian, added, "Perhaps they will build a nice chair from the scrap. Or a monument to their own ignorance. They are harmless," Korath said, "not worth our attention." Far away in the Ashkar yards, nothing could be further from the truth. The debris field had been transformed. What was once a chaotic mess of broken ships was now an organized construction zone. Massive framework structures held partially built vessels in place. Smaller craft moved between them like worker bees, carrying materials and components. Shipwright Seojin oversaw the entire operation from a command station built inside one of the largest wrecks. He was a patient man with steady hands and a mind that could hold thousands of technical details at once. Before the Forge Initiative, he had designed cargo ships. Now he was building warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On his display screens, 12 capital ships were taking shape. Each one was unique because each one combined different alien technologies in different ways. Seojin did not believe in making copies. Every ship was designed for a specific purpose. The Defiant, which had been the prototype, was now a fully operational warship. Captain Daewon had been given permanent command. The ship was built for speed and precision strikes. Its weapons could punch through heavy armor, and its engines could outrun almost anything in space. The Indomitable was different. Captain Rena, a former defense strategist, commanded this ship. It was slower than the Defiant, but incredibly tough. Its layered armor could take punishment that would destroy other vessels. Its shields recharged faster than any alien technology because human engineers had added redundant power systems. The Relentless, under Captain Junho, was built around weapon systems. It carried more firepower than ships 3 times its size. Missile pods covered its hull. Railguns extended from every angle. Junho was a former artillery officer who understood the mathematics of destruction better than anyone. These 3 ships, along with 9 others, formed the Vanguard fleet. Admiral Taeyang had personally selected each captain. He wanted people who could think differently, who would not follow standard military tactics, who could adapt and improvise. The crews were training constantly. Daewon ran his people through simulation after simulation. Rena drilled her damage control teams until they could patch hull breaches in their sleep. Junho's weapons officers could target and fire at multiple enemies simultaneously without computer assistance. They were getting ready for something. They did not know what yet, but they could feel it coming. The call came on a cold morning in March. A human mining colony on Talos Prime, a small world on the edge of human territory, sent out a distress signal. They were under attack. The message was broken and full of static, but the important parts came through clearly. Raiders, 15 ships. They're destroying everything. Please help. Then the signal went dead. Yunji immediately contacted the Galactic Assembly. She requested assistance under the mutual defense provisions that all member species were supposed to honor. The response came back 3 hours later. Threnix, the Morvan counselor, delivered it personally via video transmission. The Galactic Assembly has reviewed your request, the tree-like alien said. Its voice was calm and emotionless. Talos Prime is located outside protected space according to current boundary agreements. Furthermore, the attacking force is identified as Kryn Raiders who are not affiliated with any assembly member. Therefore, this is considered a frontier incident. Each species must handle such matters independently. You're saying you won't help? Yunji asked. She kept her voice level, but her hands were clenched into fists. We are saying that this is not an assembly matter. We recommend you negotiate with the Raiders or relocate your colonists to safer territory. The transmission ended. Yunji immediately called Taeyang. They refused. The assembly won't help our people. I didn't think they would, Taeyang said. How many colonists on Talos Prime? 8,000. Mostly miners and their families. Taeyang was quiet for a moment. Then he said, activate the Vanguard fleet. This is what we built them for. 30 minutes later, 3 ships departed from the Ashkar yards. The Defiant, the Relentless, and the Indomitable jumped to faster-than-light speed and headed for Talos Prime. The journey took 18 hours. During that time, Daewon studied everything they knew about Kryn Raiders. The Kryn were a warrior species that had rejected the Galactic Assembly. They survived by attacking weak targets and taking whatever they wanted. Their ships were old but functional, and their crews were experienced fighters. 15 ships was a large raiding force. The Kryn must have thought Talos Prime was an easy target, a new human colony with no defenses and no help coming. They were half right. When the 3 human ships dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Talos Prime system, they saw the Raider fleet immediately. 15 Kryn vessels surrounded the planet. Several of them were bombarding the colony with plasma weapons. Others were launching boarding craft to steal supplies and equipment. They're massacring civilians, Rena said over the fleet communication channel. Her voice was tight with anger. Battle stations, Daewon ordered. Remember your training. We don't fight like them. We fight like us. The Kryn detected the human ships within seconds. Their fleet began to regroup, forming a standard defensive wall. It was textbook galactic naval doctrine. Put the heavy ships in front, lighter ships in back, and concentrate fire on the enemy. It was predictable. It was structured. It was exactly what Daewon had hoped they would do. All ships scatter pattern Delta, he commanded. Engage at will. The 3 human ships split apart, moving in different directions. This immediately confused the Kryn. Standard tactics called for ships to stay together and support each other. Why were these humans separating? The Defiant accelerated hard, using its superior engines to circle around the Kryn formation. Daewon targeted the rear ships, the ones that were supposed to be safe behind the wall of heavy cruisers. His weapons officer, a young woman named Hana, had her fingers dancing across the targeting controls. Locks acquired on 3 targets. Fire, Daewon said. The Defiant's railgun spoke. They used Morvain energy cores to accelerate metal slugs to incredible speeds. The projectiles hit 2 Kryn ships before their crews even realized they were under attack. Hulls cracked open. Atmosphere vented into space. The ships spun out of control. The Kryn tried to rotate their formation, but they were too slow. The Relentless had already positioned itself above them. Junho's ship unleashed a wave of missiles. These were not normal missiles. Human engineers had designed them with swarm intelligence. Each missile communicated with the others, adjusting their approach to overwhelm enemy defenses. When the Kryn activated their point defense systems to shoot down the missiles, half of them broke off and attacked from different angles. Explosions bloomed across 3 more Kryn ships. The Indomitable came straight at the Kryn heavy cruisers. This seemed like suicide. The Kryn commanders smiled and ordered their weapons to focus on this foolish ship that dared to challenge them directly. Plasma bolts and laser beams hammered into the Indomitable. The ship's shields flared bright blue, absorbing the energy. When the shields finally overloaded, the layered armor took over. Velthir plates caught the plasma. Human flexible materials distributed the impact. Underneath it all, repair drones were already patching damage. Rena kept her ship moving forward. When she was close enough, she returned fire. The Indomitable's plasma batteries were modified Threxian weapons. The original versions were powerful but slow to recharge. Human engineers had added capacitor banks that stored energy between shots. Now the weapons could fire 3 times faster than the Threxian designers had thought possible. The Kryn heavy cruiser in front of Rena took 6 direct hits in 10 seconds. Its armor melted. Its hull buckled. The ship broke in half. The battle had been going for 12 minutes. 8 Kryn ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 7 finally realized they were not fighting primitive humans in scrap metal ships. They were fighting something new and deadly. The Kryn commander ordered a retreat. But Day One had expected this too. During the approach to Talos Prime, he had positioned several dozen automated drones along the likely escape routes. They were small and hard to detect, but each one carried a powerful sensor package and a beacon. As the Kryn ships tried to run, the drones activated. They painted each raider ship with targeting data and transmitted it to the human fleet. "They're not getting away," Day One said. "All ships pursuit pattern." What followed was not a battle. It was a hunt. The 3 human ships were faster than the Kryn vessels. The Defiant caught up to 2 raiders trying to reach the edge of the system. Railgun fire crippled their engines. The Relentless tracked down 3 more and destroyed them with long-range missiles. The Indomitable cornered the last 2 against an asteroid field and forced them to surrender. 47 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 15 Kryn ships had become 0. Some were destroyed. Others were captured. None escaped. The human colonists on Talos Prime were safe, but the battle had been observed. Several species maintained long-range sensor stations throughout the galaxy to monitor for threats and opportunities. The fight at Talos Prime had been picked up by at least 3 different civilizations. Within hours, the data was being analyzed. Within days, reports were being written. Within weeks, the entire Galactic Assembly knew what had happened. Humans, flying ships built from scrap, had destroyed a Kryn raiding fleet without taking a single loss. At Unity Point, Korath reviewed the battle recordings in silence. He watched the human ships move in ways that defied standard tactics. He watched their weapons fire with accuracy that should not be possible. He watched them coordinate their attacks with a level of precision that suggested either very advanced artificial intelligence or very well-trained crews. "Probably both. This changes things," he said to the Morvan counselor. "Perhaps," Threnix replied. "Or perhaps they simply got lucky against a disorganized raider fleet." Korath was not so sure. He filed a request for an official inspection of human military facilities. If the humans had truly developed advanced warships from the Ashkar yards, the Assembly needed to know. For the first time since giving Earth membership, Korath felt something he had not expected to feel about humans: concern. Back on the Defiant, Day One sat in his command chair and looked at the reports from the battle. 0 casualties on the human side. 8,000 colonists saved. Enemy fleet destroyed. It was a perfect victory, but it was also a message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer weak. They were no longer primitive. They had taken scrap metal and forged it into weapons that could stand against any threat. "Sir," Hana said from the weapons station, "we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Taeyang." The Admiral's face appeared on screen. He was smiling. "Well done, Captain. All of you. The colony is safe, and you've shown the galaxy what human engineering can accomplish." "Thank you, sir," Day One said. Taeyang's expression became more serious. "This won't be the last fight. The Assembly will start paying attention to us now. Some will see us as allies. Others will see us as threats. Be ready." "We will be, sir." The transmission ended. Day One looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was waking up to the fact that humanity had arrived, not as junior members asking for permission, but as equals ready to forge their own path. The age of scrap was over. The age of steel had begun. The news of the Talos Prime battle spread through the Galactic Assembly like fire through dry grass. In meeting halls and private chambers across dozens of worlds, the same question was being asked. How did humans do it? Ambassador Yunji sat in her office at Unity Point and watched the political reactions unfold. Some species sent messages of congratulation. The Talvek sovereignty, a smaller civilization that often faced pirate attacks, was particularly enthusiastic. Other species were quiet, watching and waiting to see what would happen next. The Velthir Empire was not quiet. 3 days after the battle, Korath requested a formal meeting with Yunji. She agreed, though she knew it would not be pleasant. They met in a neutral conference room. Korath arrived with 2 other Velthir officials and a Morvain observer. The purple-skinned ambassador did not waste time with pleasantries. "Your ships destroyed 15 Kryn vessels," he said. "The Galactic Assembly requires an explanation of how a probationary species acquired such military capability." Yunji smiled politely. "We used the resources you gave us. The Ashkar yards have proven to be very educational." "The Ashkar yards contained obsolete wrecks," Korath said. His forearms moved in an agitated pattern. "Damaged ships with outdated technology. How did you transform that into a fleet capable of defeating Kryn raiders?" "Human ingenuity," Yunji replied. "We are very good at making things work, even when they're broken." The Morvan observer Threnix spoke up. "We have analyzed the battle recordings. Your ships used combinations of technologies from multiple species. Velthir armor, Morvain power cores, Threxian weapons. This level of integration should not be possible without decades of research. And yet we did it in 2 years," Yunji said. "Perhaps you underestimated human capability." Korath's eyes glowed brighter, which Yunji had learned meant he was angry. "The Velthir Empire demands a full inspection of your military facilities. We must verify that you have not violated any assembly regulations regarding weapons development." Yunji had been expecting this. She and Taeyang had discussed what to do when the inspection request came. They had a plan. "Of course," she said. "The Ashkar yards are open to assembly inspection. We have nothing to hide." This surprised Korath. He had expected resistance. "We will send a team within the week." "We look forward to hosting them," Yunji said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. The meeting ended. As soon as Yunji was back in her office, she sent an encrypted message to Taeyang. "They're coming. Execute the shell game." In the Ashkar yards, Hyunsu received the message and immediately began organizing. The shell game was a plan they had prepared for exactly this situation. The most advanced ships in the fleet, including 8 of the 12 capital ships, would be hidden in nearby asteroid fields. Only the older, simpler vessels would remain visible for inspection. "We have 4 days, Hyunsu told his team. "Move everything that's too advanced. Leave the basics. Make it look like we're still learning." It was a massive operation. Ships had to be powered down and move silently to avoid detection. Equipment had to be relocated. Even the construction facilities had to be reorganized to look less sophisticated than they really were. Mirai oversaw the camouflage effort. She had her teams carefully dirty up some of the facilities, making them look more rough and improvised. Jiwoo helped by creating fake technical documents that showed a slower, more stumbling development process than what had actually happened. When Korath arrived with his inspection team, what he found was carefully controlled chaos. The Velthir ambassador toured the Ashkar yards with a critical eye. He saw humans cutting apart alien wrecks with cutting torches. He saw engineers arguing over technical manuals. He saw workshops filled with partially assembled components. He saw the Defiant, which was too well known to hide. But the ship had been modified to look less impressive. Some of its weapons were covered with maintenance panels. Its armor had been deliberately scuffed and dirtied. Hyunsu played his role perfectly. He acted like an enthusiastic engineer who had gotten lucky, with a few good designs but was mostly fumbling his way through alien technology. "This reactor configuration is something we discovered by accident," he explained, showing Korath a Morvan power core. "We were trying to repair it and accidentally improved the output by about 12%. 12%? Korath asked skeptically. "Well, that's what we think," Hyunsu said. "We're not entirely sure. Human instruments aren't precise enough to measure alien technology accurately yet." Korath's inspection team examined the Defiant from top to bottom. They ran scans. They reviewed technical specifications. They even tested some of the weapon systems. What they found was a ship that was impressive for human standards, but nothing that threatened the balance of galactic power. The technology was derivative, cobbled together from alien parts. The humans had done well for primitives, but they were still decades behind the major civilizations, or so it seemed. The inspection lasted 3 days. On the final day, Karath met with Hyunsu and Yoonji to deliver his assessment. "Your accomplishments are noteworthy," he said. The words sounded forced, like they hurt to say. "You have shown surprising resourcefulness in adapting alien technology. However, your capabilities remain limited. This is acceptable for a probationary member species." "Thank you, Ambassador," Yoonji said humbly. "We hope to continue learning from the more advanced civilizations." Korath left the Ashkar yards convinced that while humans were clever, they were not dangerous. He filed his report with the Assembly, stating that Earth's military development was proceeding within acceptable parameters for a new member species. The report was filed and mostly forgotten. The galaxy had bigger problems to worry about. One of those problems was the Talvek sovereignty. The Talvek were a peaceful species that had joined the Galactic Assembly 200 years ago. They had 3 homeworlds and about 40 billion citizens. They were known for producing excellent scientists and artists, but they had never been warriors. This made them vulnerable. A separatist movement had been growing on one of the Talvek worlds for decades. The separatists wanted independence from the central government. They claimed the government was corrupt and favored the original homeworld over the colonies. For years, this had been a political issue. Protests, debates, arguments in parliament. But then the separatists found backing from mercenary groups who provided weapons and ships. Within 3 months, the situation exploded into civil war. The separatists seized control of 3 Talvek worlds. The sovereignty's small defense fleet tried to retake them, but was pushed back. The separatists had modern weapons and experienced mercenary commanders. The Talvek military was designed for customs enforcement, not war. Thousands were dying. Refugees fled the conflict zones. The Talvek government sent desperate pleas to the Galactic Assembly for help. The Assembly held meetings. Many meetings. They debated jurisdiction, responsibility, and cost. The Velthir Empire refused to commit forces without significant compensation. The Morvan Concord demanded political concessions in exchange for military aid. Other species argued about whether this was truly an assembly matter or an internal Talvek issue. While they debated, more Talvek died. Yoonji watched the situation with growing frustration. She had seen this pattern before. The assembly was slow, bureaucratic, and obsessed with its own internal politics. By the time they made a decision, it would be too late. She sent a message to Earth. "Opportunity for humanity to gain an ally and prove our worth. Recommend offering assistance to Talvek sovereignty." Taeyang brought the proposal to the World Council. The debate was brief. Earth needed allies in the galaxy, and the Talvek situation was exactly the kind of crisis where human military capability could make a difference. The decision was made. Humanity would help. Hyunji delivered the offer to the Talvek ambassador personally. The alien, a short creature with blue fur and large eyes, looked at her with surprise. "You would help us?" he asked. "But Earth is so new to the assembly. You have your own needs." "We remember what it's like to be ignored when you need help," Hyunji said. "We won't do that to others." "The mercenaries have 15 warships and control of 3 planetary defense networks," the Talvek ambassador said. "It would be very dangerous." "We fought worse odds," Yoonji assured him. The Talvek sovereignty accepted Earth's offer. Within 48 hours, the Vanguard fleet was deployed. This time, it was not 3 ships. It was all 12 capital ships and 32 support vessels. The entire human fleet jumped into Talvek space with one mission: end the civil war and save lives. Admiral Taeyang commanded the operation from Earth, but Daewon led the fleet in person. The Defiant was his flagship, and the other captains all trusted his tactical judgment. The first target was the mercenary fleet orbiting Talvek Prime, one of the captured worlds. Intelligence reports said there were 5 heavy cruisers and 10 lighter ships defending the planet. "Standard approach won't work," Daewon said during the planning session with his captains. "If we fight them in orbit, civilian casualties could be high. We need to draw them away from the planet." Rena suggested a solution. "What if we make them chase us?" "Use a small force as bait." "Dangerous," Junho said. "The bait ships would be vulnerable." "Not if the bait ships are fast enough," Daewon said. He was already thinking through the tactics. 3 ships jump in, make a lot of noise, then run. lead the mercenaries into an ambush. It was risky, but it could work. The operation began at dawn, Talvek Prime local time. 3 human ships dropped out of FTL right on top of the mercenary fleet. The Defiant, along with 2 support vessels, immediately opened fire on the closest enemy ship. The mercenaries reacted exactly as predicted. They scrambled their entire fleet to chase down these aggressive humans. After all, the mercenaries had 15 ships. The humans only had 3. It should be an easy fight. Day 1 led them on a chase out of orbit, away from the planet, toward the edge of the system. The human ships were faster, staying just out of weapons range while the mercenaries pursued at full speed. When they were far enough from Talvek Prime, the trap was sprung. 9 human capital ships dropped out of FTL all around the mercenary fleet. The Indomitable, the Relentless, and 6 other warships appeared from nowhere. The mercenaries suddenly realized they were surrounded. They tried to reform their formation, but it was too late. The human fleet attacked from all directions at once. The battle was brutal and quick. Human weapons tore through mercenary shields and armor. The mercenaries fought back hard, destroying 2 human support ships, but they could not overcome the tactical disadvantage. 23 minutes after the ambush began, the mercenary fleet surrendered. Those ships that tried to run were disabled. Those that fought were destroyed. The first Talvek world was liberated. Over the next 2 weeks, the human fleet methodically retook all 3 captured worlds. Each battle was different. Each one required different tactics. But the result was always the same. Human ships were faster, more adaptable, and better coordinated than the mercenaries. The combination of multiple alien technologies guided by human tactical thinking proved overwhelming. The separatist movement collapsed without mercenary support. The Talvek Civil War ended. The Talvek sovereignty was overwhelmed with gratitude. They offered Earth trade agreements, technology exchanges, and a formal alliance. They praised humanity in every assembly meeting. More importantly, other small species started looking at Earth differently. Humans had done what the assembly could not: respond quickly to a crisis and actually solve it. Korath watched all of this with growing concern. He reviewed the battle reports from Talvek space. He studied the recordings of human ships in action. Something was wrong. The humans were too good, too coordinated, too effective. His inspection had shown primitive ships built from scrap. But these vessels were performing like top-tier military craft. Had the humans tricked him? Korath called a private meeting with the highest-ranking Velthir military commanders. The humans are becoming a problem, he said. We need to address this before they become a threat. The commanders agreed. Plans were made. Resources were allocated. The Velthir Empire began preparing for confrontation. On Earth, Taeyang received intelligence reports about increased Velthir military activity near human space. He read them carefully, then called Hyunsu. How many ships can we build in 6 months? With our current resources, maybe 20 more capital ships and 50 support vessels. Do it, Taeyang said. And upgrade everything. No more hiding our capabilities. If the Velthir want to see what we can really do, let's show them. The Forge initiative entered its 3rd phase. This time they were not building from scrap. They were building from strength. The success in Talvek space changed everything for humanity. Within weeks, Earth's diplomatic offices were flooded with messages from smaller assembly species. Trade proposals, technology exchanges, cultural visits, and requests for mutual defense agreements filled every channel. Yunji worked 18-hour days processing the opportunities. Some offers were genuine attempts at friendship. Others were from species hoping to gain access to human military technology. She learned to tell the difference quickly. The most valuable agreements came from species willing to share resources. Earth needed raw materials that were rare in the solar system, but common on other worlds. In exchange, humans offered manufactured goods, agricultural products, and something no other species seemed to provide: reliable military protection. Back on Earth, the World Council authorized a massive expansion of the Forge initiative, but this was not the same desperate scavenging operation that had started in the Ashkar yards. This was industrial production, on a scale humanity had never attempted. Taeyang presented his vision to the Council. We need to build a fleet that can defend Earth against any threat. That means shipyards, manufacturing facilities, and training centers across the entire solar system. The Council approved his plan. Construction began immediately. The largest project was Ganymede Station. Jupiter's moon had been a small research outpost before the Forge Initiative. Now it would become the center of human naval construction. Seojin was put in charge of the Ganymede project. The shipwright stood on the icy surface of the moon and looked at the construction site. Thousands of workers and hundreds of automated systems were building the framework for a massive orbital shipyard. How long? Taeyang asked over a video link. If everything goes perfectly? 8 months to basic operation, Seojin said. But you know nothing goes perfectly. Call it a year. We might not have a year, Taeyang said. The Velthir are moving ships toward our borders. Seojin nodded. Then we work faster. The construction teams on Ganymede worked in shifts around the clock. Ice was mined from the moon's surface and converted into water and oxygen. Metal was brought in from asteroid mining operations. Energy came from massive fusion reactors built using Morvan technology. The shipyard grew day by day. Assembly frameworks large enough to hold capital ships rose from the surface. Manufacturing plants that could produce armor plating, weapon systems, and engines were built in temperature-controlled domes. But Seojin was not just copying the designs from the Ashkar yards. He was improving them. Jiwoo led the research effort. Her team was developing technologies that were uniquely human, not just combinations of alien systems. The biggest breakthrough came in artificial intelligence. Galactic species used AI for simple tasks, but they were afraid of making systems too smart. They had laws and cultural taboos against advanced machine intelligence. Humans had no such fears. Jiwoo's team created a tactical network AI they called Aegis. It could coordinate fleet movements, predict enemy actions, and manage thousands of simultaneous calculations in real time. More importantly, it worked with human commanders instead of replacing them. In tests, ships equipped with Aegis performed 30% better than ships without it. Captains had more information, faster responses, and better situational awareness. This is incredible, Daewon said after his first training exercise with Aegis. It's like having a genius tactical officer who never gets tired and can process information 1,000 times faster than any human. And it's completely legal according to assembly regulations, Jiwoo said with a smile, because they never imagined anyone would actually build something like this. The second breakthrough was in materials science. Mirai discovered that if you combined Velthir metal with human carbon nanotubes and then treated the mixture with a specific type of radiation, the result was armor that was lighter and stronger than anything in the galaxy. She called it composite reactive armor. It could take hits that would punch through standard ship hulls and actually get stronger from the impact. How is that possible? Hyunsu asked when he saw the test results. The radiation treatment creates a crystalline structure that reorganizes under stress, Mirai explained. Every hit makes the bonds tighter. Eventually it will fail, but it takes a lot more punishment before that happens. These new technologies were incorporated into the ships being built at Ganymede. Each vessel that came out of the yards was more advanced than the last. But while Earth was building, the Velthir Empire was preparing for confrontation. Korath had convinced the Velthir High Council that humanity represented a threat to galactic order. Humans were too unpredictable, too aggressive, too quick to develop military power. The Council agreed. They authorized military action to contain the human expansion. Velthir Admiral Varoth was given command of a battle group specifically tasked with intimidating Earth into compliance. He had 25 heavy cruisers and 5 dreadnoughts under his command. It was a force powerful enough to conquer most minor species. Varoth jumped his fleet to the Cygnus trade route, a vital shipping lane that bordered human territory. He established a blockade and sent a message to Earth. The message was simple. Dismantle your military fleet, submit to Velthir oversight, or face the consequences. When Taeyang received the ultimatum, he read it 3 times. Then he called his senior officers together. They want us to surrender our fleet and let them control our military, he said. Thoughts? They're testing us, Daewon said. If we back down, they'll know we're weak. If we fight, they'll have an excuse to destroy us. Rena added. Their blockade is cutting off 3 trade routes. Our allies can't reach us and we can't reach them. This hurts us economically even if no shots are fired. Junho studied the tactical data on the Velthir fleet. They have superior numbers. 5 dreadnoughts is serious firepower. If we fight them head-on, we'll take heavy casualties. So we don't fight them head-on, Hyunsu said. We fight them the human way. Taeyang listened to his people discuss options for 2 hours. Then he made his decision. We deploy the entire Vanguard fleet to Cygnus. We do not fire first, but we do not back down. We show them that humans do not surrender. The message was sent to all ships. Prepare for deployment. At Ganymede Station, Seojin watched as the newly completed vessels powered up their engines for the first time. 8 brand new capital ships, each one incorporating the latest human innovations. They would join the original 12 in the fleet. 20 capital ships against 30 Veltir vessels. The odds were not good, but they were better than they had been. The Vanguard fleet assembled in high orbit above Earth. It was the first time all the ships had been together in one place. People on the ground could see them with telescopes, bright points of light moving across the night sky. Yoonji made one last attempt at diplomacy. She contacted the Galactic Assembly and requested mediation. The response was disappointing but not unexpected. Most assembly species did not want to get involved in a conflict between the Veltir Empire and Earth. They made sympathetic noises but took no action. Only the Talvik sovereignty offered real support. Their ambassador publicly condemned the Veltir blockade and called it illegal aggression. It did not change anything, but it showed that humanity had at least one true friend. The Vanguard fleet jumped to FTL. 20 capital ships and 60 support vessels headed for the Cygnus trade route. When they arrived, they found the Veltir battle group exactly where intelligence reports had said it would be. The alien ships were arranged in a defensive formation across the trade route, blocking all passage. Admiral Varoth watched the human fleet emerge from FTL with satisfaction. They had come to fight. Perfect. This would be a quick battle, a demonstration of Veltir superiority that would put the humans in their place. He sent a final warning. Human vessels, you are in violation of Galactic Assembly space regulations. Power down your weapons and prepare for inspection, or we will fire upon you. On the Defiant, Daewon received the message and looked at his crew. They were ready. They had trained for this. They knew what to do. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. Remember, we fight smarter, not harder. Use your training. Trust your ships. Trust each other. Then he opened a direct channel to Varoth. Veltir Admiral, you have created an illegal blockade of neutral space. You have threatened Earth without provocation. We will not power down. We will not submit. If you want a fight, you will get one. But you should know something first. What is that, human? Varoth asked with amusement in his voice. You gave us scrap. We forged legends. Leave now or learn why. There was a long pause. Varoth's amusement faded. Then he gave the order. All ships open fire. The Veltir fleet launched a massive barrage of plasma torpedoes. Hundreds of glowing projectiles streaked across space toward the human ships. The Cygnus standoff had just become the Battle of Cygnus. Daewon's next order was not what Varoth expected. Instead of returning fire or trying to tank the hits, the human fleet scattered. 20 capital ships broke in different directions, moving at speeds that should not be possible for vessels of their size. The plasma torpedoes, designed to target tight formations, lost track of their targets. Most exploded harmlessly in empty space. The few that did find targets hit ships with reactive composite armor that absorbed the impacts and kept functioning. What? Varoth stared at his tactical display in confusion. How are they moving so fast? His tactical officer had no answer. According to their scans, the human ships were using modified versions of multiple propulsion systems, Veltir thrusters, Morvain cores, and something else they could not identify, all working together. Before Varoth could give new orders, the humans counterattacked. The Defiant and 3 other fast ships circled around the Veltir formation at impossible speeds. Their railguns opened fire, targeting the shield generators on the Veltir heavy cruisers. The Indomitable and the other heavy human ships charged straight at the Veltir dreadnoughts. It looked like suicide, but Rena knew exactly what she was doing. Her ships could take punishment that would destroy other vessels. The Relentless and the missile ships deployed their swarm weapons. Thousands of smart missiles filled space, each one adjusting its course independently to avoid point defenses. The Veltir fleet tried to maintain their formation and fight by the book. But the humans were not following any book. They fought with chaos, with unpredictability, with tactics that made no sense according to galactic military doctrine. Varoth realized too late that he had made a terrible mistake. These were not primitive ships built from scrap. These were advanced warships crewed by dangerous, creative tacticians. For 6 hours, the 2 fleets fought across the Cygnus trade route. Space was filled with weapons fire, explosions, and debris. The humans lost 4 support ships. 2 capital ships took heavy damage and had to withdraw. But the Velthir losses were much worse. 7 heavy cruisers were destroyed. 12 more were disabled. 2 of the 5 dreadnoughts were crippled and drifting. Varoth's flagship was surrounded by human ships. His shields were down. His weapons were offline. His engines were failing. Dewan opened a channel. "Admiral Varoth, surrender now and your crew will be treated well. Continue fighting and we will destroy you." For a long moment there was silence. Then Varoth spoke a single word that had never been spoken by a Velthir commander in battle. Surrender. The Battle of Cygnus was over. Humanity had won. The news of Admiral Varoth's surrender traveled across the galaxy at the speed of light, carried by automated beacon networks that connected every civilized world. Within hours, every major species in the Galactic Assembly knew what had happened. A Velthir battle group had been defeated. A Velthir admiral had surrendered. To humans on Unity Point, the assembly hall erupted into chaos. Representatives from 47 species all tried to speak at once. Some were celebrating. Others were shocked. A few were angry or afraid. Korath sat in his chamber and watched the reactions with a face that showed no emotion. Inside, he was calculating furiously. The Velthir Empire had just suffered its first military defeat in 300 years. The political consequences would be severe. But more importantly, he now understood the truth. Humans were not lucky primitives who had stumbled onto a few good designs. They were a genuine military power, capable of innovation that surpassed even the most advanced galactic civilizations. The question was, what would the Velthir Empire do about it? The Velthir High Council met in emergency session. The debate lasted for 3 days. Some members wanted immediate war, a full military campaign to crush humanity before they became even stronger. Others argued for caution, pointing out that humans had already proven they could fight effectively. A smaller group suggested something different: accommodation. If humans could not be defeated easily, perhaps they could be brought into the Velthir sphere of influence through diplomacy. The council was divided. While they argued, the rest of the galaxy was making its own decisions. The Morvain Concord sent diplomatic envoys to Earth, proposing technology exchanges and mutual defense agreements. They were careful to distance themselves from the Velthir actions. The Talvek sovereignty publicly declared Earth to be their honored ally and opened all their trade, routes to human ships. Smaller species that had been quiet before now spoke openly in favor of humanity. They saw in Earth a possible counterbalance to the traditional power structures of the Assembly. On Earth, celebrations lasted for days. People danced in the streets. News channels showed the battle footage over and over. Daewon, Rena, and Junho became instant heroes, their faces on every screen. But in the halls of power, the mood was more serious. Taeyang called a meeting of Earth's military and political leadership. "We won a battle, not a war," he reminded them. "The Velthir Empire is wounded, but they're not finished. We need to be ready for their response," Yunji agreed. "The Assembly is in chaos right now. Some species support us, but others are afraid of what we represent. We need to show them that we're not a threat to the galactic order, just a species that refuses to be pushed around." "How do we do that?" asked one of the council members. "By addressing the Assembly directly," Yunji said. "By explaining our position and offering partnership instead of confrontation." The proposal was approved. Yunji would give a speech to the full Galactic Assembly, the first time a human had been invited to address the entire body. While diplomats prepared for the Assembly session, the military continued expanding. Ganymede Station was now fully operational, producing new ships at a steady rate. Additional shipyards were being constructed at Titan, Callisto, and in the asteroid belt. Yunsu oversaw the integration of new technologies into the fleet. Every ship was being upgraded with the latest systems. Aegis AI networks, composite reactive armor, enhanced weapons, improved engines. Jiwoo's research teams were working on even more advanced projects. Quantum communication systems that would allow instant coordination across light years. Shield technology that could deflect weapons fire instead of just absorbing it. New propulsion methods that would make human ships even faster. Mireille was developing manufacturing techniques that would allow ships to repair themselves in the field using nanite swarms. The technology was still experimental, but early tests were promising. The Forge Initiative had evolved from a desperate salvage operation into a sophisticated military-industrial complex that rivaled anything in the galaxy. 2 weeks after the Battle of Cygnus, the Galactic Assembly convened for its formal session. Every species sent their representatives. The assembly hall was packed with aliens of every shape, size, and color. Yunji stood on the central platform, surrounded by hundreds of eyes, sensors, and other alien sensory organs. She wore a simple formal suit in dark blue, the color of Earth's oceans. In her hand she held a small datapad with her speech notes, though she had memorized every word. The assembly speaker, a floating crystalline being called a luminar, activated the translation systems. The assembly recognizes Ambassador Yunji of Earth. Yunji looked around the hall. She saw Korath sitting with the Velthir delegation, his forearms crossed. She saw the Talvek ambassador, who gave her an encouraging gesture. She saw species she had never met before, all watching to see what the human would say. She began to speak. Members of the Galactic Assembly, I stand before you today not to apologize but to explain. 3 years ago, you welcomed Earth into this assembly. You offered us membership and a gift of old ships in the Ashkar yards. Many of you saw this as charity for a primitive species. Some of you saw it as a way to keep us busy and out of your way. There were murmurs around the hall. Some species shifted uncomfortably. But you made a mistake, Yunji continued. You underestimated humanity. You looked at us and saw weakness because we were new. You saw primitives because our technology was different. You gave us scrap metal because you thought we could not do better. She paused, letting her words sink in. You were wrong. Humans do not need permission to excel. We do not need centuries of slow development to achieve great things. When you gave us scrap, we saw opportunity. When you gave us challenges, we found solutions. When you tried to limit us, we broke through those limits. Now her voice grew stronger. We took your garbage and forged the finest fleet in this sector of space. We combined technologies you thought incompatible. We created weapons you never imagined. We trained crews that fight with creativity and courage instead of just following protocols. She gestured around the hall. Some of you fear us now. You wonder if humans will become conquerors, if we will use our military power to dominate others. Let me be absolutely clear, that is not who we are. Yunji pulled up images on the hall's display screens. They showed human ships helping the Talvek, medical teams treating alien refugees, engineers teaching others how to repair damaged equipment. Humanity will defend itself. We will never again allow others to dictate our fate through threats or force. But we are not interested in empire. We want partnership. We want cooperation. We want to build a galaxy where every species, large or small, old or new, has the right to determine its own future. She turned to look directly at the Velthir delegation. The Velthir Empire tried to intimidate us. They failed, but we do not seek revenge. We seek respect. Respect for our sovereignty, respect for our capabilities, and respect for our place in this assembly as equals. The hall was completely silent now. Every being was focused on the human standing at the center. This is our galaxy too, Yunji said. We will not be sidelined. We will not be dismissed. We will not be controlled. But we will be partners with any species that treats us as equals. We will be friends with those who offer friendship. And we will be protectors for those who need protection. She looked around the hall one final time. You gave us scrap because you thought we were beneath you. You underestimated us because we were different. But humanity has never needed permission to excel. We took your garbage and forged our future. Now we offer you a choice. Work with us to build a better galaxy or get out of our way while we do it anyway. Yunji stepped down from the platform. For a moment, there was absolute silence in the assembly hall. Then the Talvek ambassador stood and began to clap. The sound was strange because Talvek had different hands than humans, but the meaning was clear. Other species joined in. Not all of them, but many. The applause grew louder. Korath did not applaud, but he did nod slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement that Yunji caught from across the hall. The assembly speaker called for order. The assembly will now vote on a resolution to grant Earth full membership status with no restrictions. The vote was not unanimous. Some species abstained, a few voted against, but the majority voted in favor. Earth was now a full member of the Galactic Assembly. In the days that followed, everything changed. Trade agreements flooded in from dozens of species. Technology exchanges were negotiated. Cultural programs were established. Earth's diplomatic corps expanded rapidly to handle all the new relationships. The Velthir Empire did not declare war. Instead, they quietly withdrew from the borders of human space. Korath was recalled to the Velthir homeworld, though whether for punishment or reassignment was unclear. Admiral Varath and his crew were returned to Velthir custody in exchange for formal recognition of human territorial claims. The exchange was conducted with military honors on both sides. The galaxy was entering a new era, one where humanity had a seat at the table, but Taeyang was not satisfied with just a seat. He wanted to ensure that humanity would never again be vulnerable to galactic politics. He authorized the Fourth Forge Initiative, the largest expansion yet. New shipyards would be built at every major body in the solar system. The fleet would grow to 200 capital ships within 5 years. Research into advanced technologies would accelerate. "We're not just building ships," he told his senior staff. "We're building a future where Earth can stand with any civilization in the galaxy." Daewon was promoted to Grand Admiral, the highest rank in Earth's Navy. He would command the Forgeborn Armada, as the fleet was now officially called. Yunsu, Jiwoo, and Mirai continued their work at the Forge facilities, now joined by alien scientists and engineers who wanted to learn human methods. Seojun began designing ships not just for war, but for exploration. Humanity was ready to venture beyond known space, to find new worlds and new opportunities. 6 months after the Battle of Cygnus, a monument was erected in the Ashkar yards. It was built from pieces of the original Rex, the garbage that had started everything. The monument was a tall pillar made of different metals welded together. Velthir purple next to Morvain black next to Keelan silver next to human steel. At the top, a flame burned continuously, powered by a Morvan energy core that would last for centuries. On the base of the monument, words were engraved in every language of the assembly. They gave us scrap. We forged legends. Never underestimate the human spirit. Daewon stood before the monument during the dedication ceremony. Around him were the crews of the Vanguard fleet, the engineers who had built the ships and representatives from across the galaxy. He spoke briefly to the assembled crowd. "This monument stands as a reminder, not of what others tried to make us, but of what we made ourselves. We were given nothing and built everything. We were underestimated and proved them wrong. We were told our place and chose our own instead." He looked up at the flame burning at the top of the pillar. "This is not just a monument to the past. It's a promise for the future. Humanity will continue to forge ahead. We will continue to innovate, to adapt, to overcome. And we will never ever accept limits placed on us by others." The ceremony ended with a flyby of the entire Forgeborn Armada. 200 ships passed overhead, their engines lighting up the space around the Ashkar yards. People across the galaxy watched the display. Some with admiration, some with envy, some with concern. But all of them understood the message. Humanity had arrived. They had taken scrap and forged the deadliest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. They had earned their place not through permission, but through determination. The age of human exploration was just beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same. Far from Earth, in the uncharted regions beyond assembly space, sensors detected the signatures of the human fleet. Unknown species watched with interest. Some saw opportunity, others saw threat. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and dangers that humanity had not yet encountered. There would be new challenges ahead, new battles to fight, new friends to make and enemies to face. But whatever came next, humanity would face it on their own terms. They had proven that they could take nothing and create something extraordinary. They had proven that the human spirit could not be contained by scrap metal or limited by others' expectations. They had proven that when you give humans garbage, they will build something that changes the galaxy. And this was only the beginning.